Ahoy, Glenn Matey with that profile picture.
What's up?
I said, ahoy, Matey with that profile picture.
I had to know which one you were talking about, but I do know what you're talking about. Yes, ahoy.
Hey, man, is that your basement? Or your no, that's your garage,
That's
right?
the garage.
How many pinball machines you got back there?
Five at the moment.
Okay. Are those ones that you brought from Illinois, or are these new ones?
Yes.
A mix
So,
of both.
so no, well, what it is three of them are mine, and I brought them with me. Two of them are from a neighbor, and he is trying to finish building his house. And as we got to know each other better, he was living in rentals with his family while they were finishing up their house that took longer than they expected. And he was like, "Hey, would you keep an eye on these for me?" And I said, "Sure." So I worked on the one for him for a while. The other one could be in better shape, but the other one I got going it's going pretty darn well.
Oh, so you're kind of like also refurbishing it at the same time?
Yeah, as long as it's here.
Okay, just doing that out of the kindness of your heart, Glenn.
Out of the kindness of my heart. But truly it's a matter of going, I mean, it's a beautifully selfish thing at the same time. I mean, you get a chance to play a great game and not pay for it. And they keep sending me cash every once in a while going, "Hey, if you need more parts." And I'm like going, "Okay." And so then I just keep putting more parts on it
Okay,
until it's running better. The one I'm not diving into because it's going to take more work than I feel like.
okay,
Um, and because it's going to take more work than I feel like I told him, I go, um, I have zero problems working on it, but I think it's going to be messy. And I would just as soon you're here and you and I are diving into it. So it doesn't seem like I am just trying to like make a dollar off of you by going, well, that didn't work. Let's try these parts.
yeah, yeah,
And at some point in time, you've got it. I believe the owner has to have the ability to go, okay, I'm tapping out. This is getting over my head. And I'd be like going, me too.
So you've been into, pinball machines and arcade games and stuff for a long time. When did you start to be able to work on them? Was it right away? Did you just kind of figure out, hey, you know what, I might as well start to work on these since I like them and I own them?
Yeah, I had no choice. My first machine was given to me out of a guy's garage. I was working in the gas stations at the time, and I was talking about the fact that I like pinball. And he
Yeah.
goes, "Well, I have a pinball machine." And we talked about it for about 6 months while I worked there. And all of a sudden he goes, "Glenn, I got a good deal for you. Get this damn thing out of my garage and it's yours."
Okay.
And it was only half working. It was the real old kind. And so I knew nothing. I mean, the inside of a pinball machine is pretty complicated to start off with, but
Yeah.
the old ones were all these electrical mechanicals. So there was like a giant electric motor that could kill you if you crossed the electricity wrong, and it's turning all these gears that make other things happen. And I was just young and dumb and cheap enough to go, I think I could figure this out. And
Well, yeah, that's what's amazing. It's like I'm not a pinball enthusiast, but I will go play one every once in a while when we're at like a barcade, kind of place. I want to play some pinball. I enjoy it. And to think about the number of like things that get hit and then what that does to here, and oh, you got three times now, so now this is activated, and like all these things that happen in at least the new models where I'm like, where do you start?
yeah, well, that's the whole thing. Like Terminator 2 has all three pop bumpers aren't working. So it could be that because they seem like they stopped working more over time, that it's probably just the electro, it's just the coil. So a coil is what runs 99% of pinball machines always. So it's an electric magnet that has
Okay.
a rod that goes up and down through it.
You
Okay.
just want to keep doing that? Is that what you want
Let's
to keep?
keep doing
This
this
is how
over and
it
over again.
goes.
So a flipper, a hot bumper, but then the guys who are great engineers, they come up with different linkages to make this motion do something, whether it's always on so it stays up or whether it's turned off or whatever. But this is predominantly the electric motion.
Okay.
So if you understand that, then how do you replace a coil? What normally wears out? Like there's a silicone sleeve on the inside. So that almost always is the first thing to wear out. They're like 35 cents a piece, So you just have to be willing to tear it apart to put a new
Yeah.
35-cent part on the inside of it. But
Okay.
because all three are out, then they're also connected to a computer board called a node board, and that could be bad. So we may
Sure.
rebuild all three coils and then still not have the pop bumpers going, and then it'll be like going, huh, it was an electric board. Sorry, I wish I was better at this, and I could have, get a better electronic guy would be able to test all the currents and what's running through there. I
Sure.
have to just literally go, it's like baking. I know these ingredients go in there, I think. And then we make it, and then you go, oh, that's wrong. So you add more or less of something to make it taste better. And that's my approach to pinball repair.
Well, and you probably start with the basics. Like, here's the basic thing that we could do, and then we're gonna grow from there. Because I'm not willing, like you said, this is a
Right,
35-cent part, whereas this electrical note is now we're getting into like the 25, $30 or more,
correct.
whatever the heck it costs. And now we're in electrical board, and now that's gonna be 100 something. So
100%.
that's awesome. But no, I absolutely love it. So, but hey, man, I appreciate you hopping on with me. When one more thing I want to ask you about though, because I need to ask like about your so you before you came here, you went to an Italian restaurant, right? Is that what it is? It's some
Yeah,
Italian
Italian
restaurant.
restaurant for dollar beer night.
That's awesome. That's awesome that a place still does that.
That's where I was like, and it's like going, and the place is really good, and the portions are so big that the waitress on their first time there goes, well, my mom and I, when we come in here, we just split a meal, and so
Yeah.
Sadie and I just always now split a meal, and then we drink dollar beers.
Yeah, I
So
love it.
we walked out the door tonight having ate um, homemade meatball parmesan
Oh,
over linguine with beers, and my total with tipping 22% because we like the waitress and stuff like that.
yeah.
$27.
Wow. Retirement, you're just stretching that money. You're doing a good
Gotta make
job.
it go by, man. I mean,
Love it.
because both Sandy and I work in these little part-time jobs, and it's a matter of going, and they're fun, but they're a different level of income than we were doing before.
Yeah, of course. You gotta adjust those slightly.
Right. But the one reason why I couldn't be on last week is I picked up a job as a game show host, and
Yeah,
that's an absolute riot.
dude, that's that. Tell me a little bit about that, if you don't mind sharing. Like your game show, is it like on a YouTube type show? Like, is that what it is, or like what does that mean? Like, what does being a game show host? I mean, I know what it means on TV, but
It is. We are now. We were branch 13. There's now 14 branches around the country. There's one in Chicago, and it's called Game Show Battle Rooms. And Game Show Battle Rooms, you have a host and a producer, and you get 6 to 72 of your closest friends to come on in, and we'll run you through a full blown game show. So
whoa,
you get all the lights, you're spinning and solving, your top 100 people asked the top four questions are on the board. We've got giant props for like plinko type of games and everything. And
wow.
and the whole time there's a producer that you're communicating with. So they run all the lights and the music and they sweep everything in there. And it's just cool as all get out.
That sounds awesome. Good for you, man. Like that sounds right up your alley too. Like you got the pinballs behind you. You're into the game type stuff anyways. You got the gregarious nature to you to do it. I love it.
Well, it was funny because of the fact that I didn't know what they were looking for. I saw it on Yelp. Is it Yelp? No, Indeed. Is that where you look for jobs?
Yeah,
Okay, it was on Indeed, and it just said game show host slash producer.
yeah,
I go, okay. It didn't really tell me much more about it than what I was going to do there. So I sent them some videos of me doing tilt track stuff because I didn't know if I was going to be producing stuff
sure, sure,
video wise or whatever. Going, look at this. This is my resume.
yeah,
Um, so she does a Zoom conference with me. I was convinced I had the job no matter what walking into it. So by the time we were done, she had to go, oh, by the way, just so you know, you have the job. And I'm like, oh, I already figured, because we were chatting this whole time. And then we went to training. It was 2 12-hour days in a row. They brought in corporate to do our training, and they were never making me host or produce. They kept going, just play games, Glenn, just play games. And but they were making other people go through it multiple times. And I finally looked at them and I go, well, why don't I get any practice? And they go, you got it.
love
So
it.
it's
Yep,
and and so it was funny because of the fact that people keep saying, you've been pretty much doing this your whole life, and and it's like
yeah,
going, and that's exactly what it feels like. So I really just go in, I play games, um,
it's
and it's
awesome.
it's silly fun.
Well, are you ready to host the Week 8 recap?
Fuck yeah, let's do this.
Let's do it. All right. All right. Well, welcome, fam, to the 2024 of the FFL Week 8 recap.
Meow meow,
Uh, what's up?
meow meow.
Meow meow. I do have my special co-host, Meow meow, the Panther King himself, that is on here.
That was a heck of a piece last week.
I hope you enjoyed it.
I, I got to admit, I didn't expect it. So, yes, it's always nice when you go, ha, never saw that one coming.
Yeah, that was, they just kind of pop up. Even today's sponsor, it came this morning, and it was like, all right, I'm not as big of a fan, but hey, sometimes we can't get Sam the biggest sponsors. We can't get him the biggest or the best, but last week was a good one. And I'm sure you're going to have people flooding to come see all your giant cats that, you're on display.
Yeah,
So,
I'm a bit concerned. I'll be honest with you. Having moved to North Carolina, I thought it would be easier to be a Panthers fan. And it's
okay.
really, really difficult. So, what I have decided is I'm leaning more towards meow meowing and less towards the P word because
Okay.
they really suck. They
They
really,
do. And they've gotten worse because they just traded Deontay Johnson.
yeah.
So,
Well, hey, this guy could almost be okay. Oh, he's gone. We're rebuilding, but
that's
rebuilding
what
for
it
what?
feels like.
You're just counting on the fact you're going to suck so bad. We're going to just keep getting multiple first round picks, and then we'll pick the shortest guy in the draft.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll see, and then we'll replace him with the red rifle. It's just bad, just
Yep.
bad. But I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so that way we can
Okay.
get the PowerPoint rolling, and get really into these matchups from what happened in Week 8. So as you know, we go through the whole Week 8 and into Week 9, starting with the Week 8 matchups. Didn't really have any ass whoopings this week, Glenn. We had a few that were pretty, good size, but not great. Then we'll head up Dr. Sam's injury report. We definitely, what in the world am I doing? I'm trying to get rid of this fucking thing up top. But we'll hit up the injury report, talk to Dr. Sam, see what we need to do there. Then we hit up the waiver wire what to do's. I need your help because there might be some spots where we don't know who to pick up. Then after that, we have Trade Central. Not much going on there either. Denzel's wondering what's happening. And then I've changed it to Javante watch, Glenn, because we know where Godwin is. He's sitting out. So that's what we're doing there. Comment of the week, and then we'll wrap it up with the week 9 matchup. So are you ready to rock and roll?
Let's do this, man.
Let's do it. All right, we're gonna start with something. I'm gonna split us up here so we can move up top, and then hopefully this moves up. Start with this one because I just want to get it out of the way. I have to, Glenn, and this is kind of a reminder to everybody about getting players out of your IR that are no longer on IR.
Uh
So
oh.
Bob and Louis put up the second highest point total of the week. Unfortunately, he faced Bob, who once again put up the highest. Way to go, Bob. You get another high score of the week. That's Bob's second in a row and third on the season. Glenn, I think he's got a tough team to beat. But ultimately, what happened here, Glenn, Louis left Puka Nakua in IR. But Puka played this past Thursday. If you leave a player in IR that is not either out or in IR and ultimately plays, they you lose 15 points. So that's been a rule kind of in,
Oh,
yeah. So season one we started with that. What I will say is we've never really implemented it because the team always lost anyways. Like I don't think a team's ever actually won after doing that, which is interesting. But this would be like I think the third time. And the reason I put the deduction on Glenn is A, we are a larger group now, we're 12 teams, but B, um, point total in the end matters too. So point differential is one of the deciding factors for where you are at in playoffs. And so I think it's just important that if it happens, I got to do it no matter what. And unfortunately, Louis was docked 15 points. So instead of being like that second highest point total of the week, he ends up being more like the fourth or fifth highest point total of the week
oh,
for that purpose.
out. So when did he come off of injured reserve? Did he have enough time to know that he was coming off of injured?
Literally came off like 5 hours before the game was played, 5 or 6 hours. They like I saw the announcement Thursday afternoon, and he played like 4 or 5 hours later.
Wow,
So
you are a tough judge right there. I'll just say
I,
that. I'm like
I
going.
know.
I'll be honest with you. Some of you guys, between all the comments on the board, seem like you have a life that revolves around watching football and fantasy football. And I could see myself easily falling into that trap because I wasn't watching for the 5 hours before the other important Thursday night game, especially if I didn't think I had anybody playing. So,
That's true, Glenn.
way to be the taskmaster.
That's part of the commissioners. I like that's an important part. However,
Wow.
I'll give Louis credit. He reached out to me that evening and just said, "Hey, how does this work? What do I do? Can I move this guy out of IR somehow?" And it was like, "Well, once he plays, you can't move him. You can't do anything with him." So it's kind of and it was kind of an unfortunate thing for Louis because it was pretty quick. I'll say I knew that afternoon. That's because that's when I get off of work. So I don't know if it happened before that or what happened, but he literally got off of IR like that day. I'll say that on Thursday they got him off of IR, and then you just gotta know. So you're right. It is a tough call. But either way, he lost because friggin' Bob's team, man. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bob's team put up some points.
yeah, what do you think of this matchup? Like, what's going on? Like, why is Bob's team so good?
I think it's because they're putting up a lot of points.
That's good analysis.
It's like it's just when you watch a team that now for a couple weeks in a row is putting up predominantly more points than projected, and they're already projected to be pretty darn tough.
Yeah.
This team is right now they're firing on all cylinders. That's for darn sure.
Agreed, Glenn. And we'll talk about that in the week nine matchup because unfortunately you face him in the week nine matchup. But
That's
this is,
awesome.
I know, yeah. But Bob, I will say, Bob is going to be a scary team. Like it's just he truly has what I see as the best team I've seen in our league in the 3 seasons we've done it. So he's doing great, and Louis got a great team himself. So Louis, nothing to hang your head about because Lamar Jackson putting up great points still. CeeDee Lamb woke up this week and put up a huge week. So Louis also got some really good stuff going on there, but unfortunately took the big hit with the IR spot. But otherwise, he was at 136 points. He would have beat everybody else this
I was
week.
going to say,
So
even with your penalties, he
yeah,
was able to still. I mean, the only thing you did was manage to make yourself look like you could beat him.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. But we couldn't.
it's like, well, no, I could have beaten him, but no, without his penalty points, he would have beaten everybody else.
And the tough part for him, and this will be the last comment, and then we'll move on to the next one. But Tyler Lockett, I guarantee he would have probably played Puka Nakua over Tyler Lockett, and that would have given him an extra like 17 points, I think, on the week. Still wouldn't have won, but it'd have been an even closer matchup at that
Absolutely.
point. So way to go, both teams. Unfortunately, Louis, you're on the losing side of it, but you both have good teams and should be patting yourselves on the back this week.
And that should give us somebody that we can be picking
Yeah,
up somewhere because
yeah.
he's going to have
I
to clear somebody off that team.
I think so. He probably already dropped them, so you'd have to take a look. But we'll get there because I think there's a couple of people out there I think that we can grab. I don't know if they came from Louis or not.
Right.
But next up was the battle of the people at the top, and that was me versus Sam. We were both first in our divisions. We are still first in our division, but I was lucky enough to take the victory this week. What do you think was the difference in this matchup, Glenn?
Sam's been sucking the last couple weeks.
He's had a tougher go of it the last few weeks, I will say.
I mean, it's the same team. It's just that for whatever reason, you've got everybody just they're not put. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
lot of tight ends had a great week this week. His tight end is not one of them.
No.
He's still got A Chain who's doing everything that he can, but you've got Burrow who's no longer doing everything he's supposed to. So he's just not able to. And Chicago, DJ Moore, only 4.8 points when you're expecting, it's his team. I was hoping to beat him in my week because of the fact that I could see the man was down and it was the right time to
Yeah.
try to trump on him.
Yeah. And unfortunately, yeah, he scored. You're right. Last week he won, but he's only scored like 75 points. So it's been a rougher go on his end there. And for
Yeah,
me, I'm still getting carried by Jameer Gibbs and Kyron Williams. These guys are still carrying me at this point. So that's what kind of helped me get ahead on that. And Kyler having a better game than I thought he would. So that was very helpful on that side.
absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Next up, the Cases Aces. So Casey, he ended up taking a loss to Zach, the laws of Valonomics. And Zach had a few guys that had a big boom weeks for him, and Casey had one guy who he couldn't really do much about because he had an illness like right before the game,
Yep.
and it was the Sunday night game, so he kind of got screwed a bit there with Rico Dowdle on that side. What did you see that maybe caused it to go Zach's way?
Well, he's the opposite of Louis. He also, or maybe the same as Louis. He just didn't realize they had a guy out at the last minute. And if
Yeah,
if he would have realized an hour or so beforehand that he's got somebody out, I don't know if it's enough to push him over the top, but it's got to be better than the 0 points that Rico pulled off. And
yeah.
his backup was sitting on the wire. So I mean, there was somebody grabbable, even at that last minute type of deal, depending on how much you wanted to beat the
Yeah,
other
beat
team.
Zach. Yeah, true. I would say true to that. And this one, I mean, for Zach, James Cook goes off again, and really he had a few guys go off. Allen, Cook, Pitts, and Jonathan Taylor all over 20 points. The rest of his teammates they were in single digits. So he kind of had this boom bust profile to his team this week that helped get him over the hump. And you need those guys that can do that. And he luckily ran up against a Seattle team. Buffalo did that. Not a great defense over there in Seattle. Very up and down, and they don't stop the run very well. So he's able to take
I,
advantage there.
I think Casey's just lucky that there's not somehow or another a rule that was discussed in season one where he loses 15 points or anything like that for not paying attention right before the game starts and playing a guy who was scheduled not to play.
You know what? I was trying to look at it, Glenn, and I don't know if he could have done anything because the problem was that Rico played Sunday night, so all
Right?
the other players had already played. And to your point, I don't know if like you like drop a guy or not. We've never really, and that's a good point too. Like we never really discussed that. I wouldn't throw that on somebody, but I know there are leagues where like if you were to play a guy that was out, I think it's very there's a gray area, meaning did you do it on purpose to give the other guy the win, the kind of deal? Is there collusion in that? I didn't see it as that, with this matchup, but you're right. Like there are leagues that legitimately do that, where if you play a guy who is out, like you get fined for that too.
Yeah.
But like I said, on Casey's side, I don't know if he had. I'm gonna look real quick. I think No, that's where he's got screwed. He didn't have anybody. So
He,
even so to your
he,
point, he would literally have to drop Dowdle to get the running back, I think, for Dallas at that point, which would have been Dalvin Cook. He would have had to drop Rico Dowdle to pick up old man Cook, who by the way has already been put onto their practice squad again. So that would have had to have been his move because otherwise he had nobody else and he was kind of screwed
right,
at that point.
right.
So I kind of effed him. But nice job, Zach. He gets another victory and he's kind of rolling a little bit here, having some decent weeks here as of late. Let's move on to your matchup, Glenn. You took it. You took a W this week against Andy. What did it for you?
You know, I have been in trouble. The only time I was in good shape in this season was after the draft. ESPN was like going, "Hey, you're going to place first." And
Yeah.
I went, "Okay." I thought I had a good draft. I had a good draft in my other league. I'm
Yep.
like going, "Okay." Both of them said I was going to take first. The one I'm in the playoffs so far, and this one here, my guy gets injured instantly. And when you're the first draft choice in a 12-person league and you lose your first draft choice, you don't choose again until I think it's the 24th spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you get your 24th and the 25th pick. But that means there's a lot of players that have already been pulled off long before you get there. I thought I had a couple guys, but then they've been banged up or not living up to what they're supposed to do. And I have spent this entire season just trying to grab somebody. And the waiver wires, as you cover every week, are thin at
Yep.
those positions. There's just no one to grab. And then we do things like you finally go for a trade and they get hurt on their try to catch a ball in the end zone. It's like,
Mike,
oh,
that hurt. That hurt me, Glenn. That hurt me for you. I was like, what the F? Because we had discussed that. We had discussed like, well, let's just see how this like plays out. But then it was like, well, technically we can get this done if you want Mike Evans for tonight. We could do it. And it was
yep.
like, oh, like
Yeah, and then I hate to say it, but unfortunately, I still I still enjoy watching the Packers, and I enjoy watching them play. And if anybody was going to tell me that the way I was going to help pull off the victory was the fact that Jordan Love would come off the field injured, but officially, I think that's what it was. My team's mediocre at best. It's limping its way through the occasional victory, just enough to try to have me get to send the pink shirt to somebody else. And and it's never because of the fact that my team is good. It's because of the fact that the other team that week had local tragedies.
well, I think that your team actually did pretty well this week at 111. You're right in the middle of the pack there with scoring. Um, what I liked about it, I'm just going to name one person. I like that you picked up Lad McConkey, who Andy dropped, and play. It was a revenge game for Lad McConkey. That's really what happened. Lad was really upset at Andy, and he was like, "You know what? I'm
Yeah,
going to show you, man. I'm going to show you." And then he did because right there, I mean, that was a if Andy has Lad McConkey, maybe he wins. You don't
yep,
know.
yep.
I don't know if he'd play him over any of those guys, but still. But yeah, Lad McConkey going for a big game. That was awesome. And Marvin Harrison Jr. back a little bit. It's good to see him getting another good game, which he
Yep,
hadn't had in a while.
correct.
So that was really nice. But nice job getting that W, Andy. He took the L. Yeah, like you said, Jordan Love going out. That definitely hurts a lot. He has Baker Mayfield, so he's not doing too bad at QB still. He'll be all right to fill that spot in just for this exact reason. So he's still all right, but man, he's bottom of the West at 2-6. So he's hurting. He's probably pretty upset over there in
I
Omaha.
bet I would be. It's like he comes into it going, okay, at least I get a break. I'm playing against the kitty cats, and then it's like going, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. Motherfucker. But nice job. Way to get that W, Glenn. I mean, you've won what, three of the last four, three of the last five, something like that. I mean,
Something. I think I'm at 3 wins. So I
you
whatever
are,
that is.
but you started out I think like 0-3, and now you're three of the last five at least, man. So you're doing well.
Yeah,
Keep it rolling, Glenn.
I needed to win against Sam.
Yeah,
The lob. It's like going, okay, the whole league went set, and then I didn't complete.
that one hurt. I know that
Yep,
one hurt. We blame Mike Evans for that
I
one.
do too. And I'm not going to name his name or whatever, but Beg Bevins, um, guys similar to that, he knew what was coming up, and he used his vast fantasy football knowledge to
To
probably
know
paying attention to the all the injury reports that he gets firsthand,
is
and and knew what was going to
premonition.
happen.
I have a premonition report,
Yeah.
and that's what happens. But we'll move on to the next game, which was EJ versus Kyle. This was actually a pretty heated matchup here. They both were in fourth place coming in, and they are both still fourth place going out. So it didn't really change their perspective in their divisions. However, one did come away with a W that was important for him to get closer to that 500 mark, while the other fell to 500 at that point. Anything that you saw in this matchup that maybe leaned one way versus the other?
Yeah, I think officially EJ, when he went with the guy coming off of, when he went with Tua coming
Yep,
off of injury and stuff like that, and benched Mahomes, it's like it's the first week back. During
yep.
Sam's injury reports, he's always telling us, he can come back, but he's more susceptible to this problem or that. He put a lot of faith, and that was going to be one of those that either I was way wrong by being conservative by not playing him, or he was going to be a genius for going, look, he's back and he's ready. And I just think in this case here, he was back, but he just wasn't back.
I completely agree. I thought the same exact thing. I would understand it probably more if Mahomes had a bad matchup. But
Right.
Mahomes was going against Las Vegas Raiders, another great matchup. Both had great matchups. Even the Cardinals, they're not a great defense. So either one usually is a good matchup. But to your point, maybe you let Tua see what he's going to do this week, and now he comes in next week because Mahomes hasn't been great for fantasy. He's a great quarterback. He's not great for fantasy,
Correct.
but that might be the play that did hurt him because if he goes with Mahomes, he wins this matchup. And on the other side, it was the battle of the top two tight ends in our league, and Kittle won out, and that was another difference maker in this. I mean, Kittle versus Bowers. Kittle outscored Bowers by what, 14 and a half points, and guess what the margin of victory was? About 11 points. So that also impacted him. But not that you're ever going to sit either one of those guys, but that was Kittle got some huge plays in that game, and that really vaulted him. But yeah, we'll see how this week goes for EJ. Both still have good teams too. Both have really
Yep.
solid teams. So sitting all right. But yeah, probably a tough loss for EJ when he looks back and says, "Ah, man, I could have played this guy." And he was probably battling it too, Glenn. Just like you said, you're probably going back and forth. And what do I do? And when you make that wrong move, which I don't know how many times I've done it in myself, then you're like, damn it, I knew I should have made this guy.
I got to admit, it would have been something I would have stared at for a long time, and I would have probably clicked it in different ways, and then finally went, "This is what I'm living with."
Yep, exactly. Exactly. But nice job, Kyle. Way to get that W. EJ felt falling to 500, but you're still at fourth. So you're still in a good spot at 4-4. And the matchup of the week, Glenn, or I should say the win of the week. Oh my word. Allison finally gets that W in this week's nail biter.
You can't make this.
Woo!
You cannot make this the game of the week because all that does is make Tyler feel bad
I
because
know it's not the
he,
game of the week. It's
it's a
just
matter of going. If it's the
oh
game of the week because Allison finally won, which hurrah! By the way, Allison,
yes.
that is fantastic. I mean, it's always great to be as a person who's been struggling all season. I get it, but poor Tyler. No one wants to be the guy who
No.
loses to the person who everyone else has been able to beat.
That's true. I know. And for him, he got unfortunate Diggs, left with a knee injury, and he's out for the season now too. And we'll get into that. And I'm sure Dr. Sam will get into that. But that's a tough loss for him in a matchup that was, where Diggs was doing just fine and could have scored him more points. And then even last night, I mean, that really came down to last night's game. And what I will say for Russell Wilson does not throw to the tight end. That's just not what he does. And so if I'm you, Tyler, I would move on from Fryermuth because Russell Wilson just ain't going to throw him the ball. Like that's just not what Russell Wilson does. And so that kind of not saying it hurt him because it wasn't like he's going to score a bunch of points, but Wilson was throwing more to Pickens at that point and other guys. He's just not really looking Fryermuth's way, which is unfortunate because I think Fryermuth is a good tight end. But
And Amari Cooper is an interesting character too, because right now
yeah,
he's not fine. You would have hoped that you were in a quarterback scheme that was going to be better for Amari Cooper. There should be more opportunities to score big plays, but it's not. I mean, this is his second game or is this his third game since being traded?
this was his second game.
Right. And so, like anything, it's like going, yes, you're good at the position, but it's like, are you familiar with how Buffalo's doing everything? And so I think in the long run, keeping Amari Cooper is a good play. I think he can make some points or whatever, but I think right now he's definitely a risk as they find out which Amari Cooper, how are they utilizing him?
And that's a really great point. He got the touchdown last week, but that's what saved his week. He really didn't get many balls thrown to him.
Yep.
And to your point, like they're figuring out how to use them. And in this game, they didn't really have to, right? They were up. You get up at a certain point where you don't even have to use them, and he's almost more as a decoy currently. But if you're Tyler, you kind of also got to play him because who else are you going to throw out there? And with Stephon Diggs now hurt, you're going to keep throwing Amari out there and just hoping that he can get that connection with Josh Allen going. But it's still early in their connection in their career together. So
Right.
that's a really good call on that, Glenn. All right. Well, that wraps up this week's matchups. Nice job to those who took the victories home. To those who lost, don't worry. Everyone is still in the mix. Everyone's still in that playoff hunt. So, got to keep working on it. But some of us had some unfortunate injuries and other things that happened. So we got to find out what do we do about that. So, Glenn, to find out what we're going to do about that, let's get into this week's recap sponsor break.
Okay.
Every day is a great day to spice up your life, but as the seasons change and weather gets colder, it's an even better reason to add some heat. Stevens Jardinera is made of the chunkiest ingredients to ensure you get a bite packed with flavor and spicy goodness. We use the slipperiest oil to ensure you can feel that heat on both ends as quickly as possible. Though we recommend you eat our jardinera, it also works as a great squirrel repellent. Spread it at the bottom of your garage door frame to stop them from eating the wood, or smother your Halloween pumpkins with it to ensure the squirrels also get some heat at both ends. Stevens Jardinera is sold at our house and our house only, so stop by the next time you're in the area.
So is it working?
It actually is working.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So
Maybe
yeah, it's
maybe we've got
randomly
something
working.
here. I think maybe you just need to release it on Amazon in a spray bottle and just see if you can't be the only person who's having this problem.
No, we can't. And I think to your point, if we release it in a spray bottle, we also have cornered the mace market, and I think we can really get some safety classes going that use Stevens Jardinera oil as a way to really keep everybody safe out there within them tough streets. It's a good point.
Absolutely. And plus, they probably smell delicious. So you'll be able to spot the
Oh,
criminal faster.
exactly. You'll be like, hey, you eat a hot dog recently? Or are you just happy to see me? All right. Well, let's find out from Dr. Sam what's happening with these injuries. Does that sound good, Glenn?
Sounds like a plan. I need to hear on a couple of my players.
You're like, I've been waiting for this from the doctor. All right, Dr. Sam, you look a little sad. I hope he's not so sad, but he looks a little down and out right now. He's like, I don't want to do this, but let's get some grit in this.
All right, week 8, I think, injury report. Drake May, New England quarterback, out with a concussion, likely 1 to 2 weeks. Jordan Love, quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, had a groin injury. MRI was clean, just a strain. Soft tissue, usually 1 to 2 weeks, depending on mobility levels. They do play Detroit this week, and then they have a bye after that. So just have to watch practice to see how he's doing with those reps. Jordan Mason, running back for the 49ers with an AC sprain. They do have the bye this week, but then obviously Christian McCaffrey's coming back, so he'll probably have good use week 10 once he returns while CMC is ramping up. Stephon Diggs, wide receiver for the Houston Texans, out for the season with an ACL tear. Deebo Samuel, wide receiver for the 49ers, has a rib/oblique injury. Probably about 1 to 2 weeks for that. But again, they do have the bye this week. Every Jacksonville Jaguar wide receiver, Brian Thomas Jr., out 2 to 4 weeks with a rib/chest injury. Christian Kirk, out for the season with a broken collarbone. And then Gabe Davis, looks like he re-aggravated his shoulder. I don't think they know exactly how bad it is currently. Looks like DK Metcalf probably going to return week 9 with a high re-injury rate to the knee. TJ Hawkinson probably coming back this week, about 85% efficiency. CMC probably returning week 10 with a high re-injury risk. So probably running back by committee there in San Francisco. I think Pacheco's practice window probably open up in about 1 to 2 weeks. Nick Chubb should be at about full go in about 2 weeks. Both LA Rams wide receivers, Puka and Cooper Kupp, should be about 80 to 90% snap rate coming up this week. And then Derek Carr looks like he's expected to return this week, but probably a decrease in his deep ball production.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sam. We appreciate that. Anybody that he hit on your end there, like where you for your guys?
Amazingly, so the only guy I got to worry about is I just keep waiting to hear when Mike Evans gets his old man self back on the field.
Yeah, right. I don't understand. Like, it seems like he has that issue. Like he does, like his hamstrings. He does not know how to take care of them.
Well, you remember before our trade, I mean, that was a conversation. I'm like,
Yep,
I'm going to watch the gameplay before I do this trade. And it
yep,
wasn't until you came up with the other way of doing it that it was like going, okay, then I'll take the risk on my side. But as we're clicking the buttons, we were all talking about the fact of going, we'll see.
yeah.
And unfortunately, we saw it sooner than I had hoped.
And I, like I said on the last podcast, like I think it hurt more that he was doing well. He got a touchdown pass
Oh,
early in the game.
and he injured himself on his second touchdown reception.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Okay.
he was going for his second touchdown reception.
Oh,
He just didn't. It just didn't work that way. We ended up with with
oh,
an injury instead. But otherwise, that has me beat the doctor.
yes, exactly. Well, hopefully you'll get good news, I guess, soon. When's their bye week? I think their bye week is like week 10 or
I was
something
gonna
or
say
11.
it's coming up.
Yeah.
It's I can pull it up right here. They're week 11.
So the tough part would be hopefully he comes back before that. But when like the bye weeks match up in that manner, you always wonder,
Yep, if they'll just
is it,
hold him out the 1 week, and
yeah,
then he'll
because
do the exact opposite of what I was trying to do with you, which was going. I needed to get a couple
wins
wins
now.
now because otherwise, if I put together some good games at the end of the season, all what I'm doing is fighting for not last place. And so it's like we needed to go, and now I got a guy who probably won't pop back out till week 12.
You're not going for consolation prizes, right?
You know what? I'm
No.
just I am highly highly motivated by getting rid of the pink shirt. I can't tell you how much I hate owning that shirt. Um, and and just the fact that I keep it in my closet in a spot where I can see it, not because I'm ever wearing it, but just to remind myself every week of going, you are not coming back on this body if everything goes right.
No, never, never. All right. Well, Dr. Sam told us who's injured, what's happening, and hey, there's also bye weeks going on. So I think for this week for bye, I know Pittsburgh is on bye, and I know that San Francisco is on bye. I don't know if there's other teams, but I know the Steelers and the 49ers are both at least on bye this week. So we might have to have some fill-ins for those guys. Let's start with the quarterback. Anybody on this list, mind you, Joe Flacco's now been named the starter for the Colts. So he's now in the mix too. But anybody on this list that you would like to maybe put on your squad if you needed a quarterback?
There is a guy, and to the point where I've already tried to put him on my thing, but we'll find out tomorrow morning whether or not I get him or not.
Okay, so maybe we won't make certain mentions, but I can here I'll take this segment, Glenn.
Thank
Um,
you.
so if I'm doing it, I'm looking at Bo Nix and I'm looking at Jameis Winston. Those are the two main guys that I look at to say, hey, they should. Bo Nix has done it multiple weeks in a row now, so I like him a lot in it. And he's facing Baltimore. Jameis Winston looked great against Baltimore last week, and I just like the guy. I just think he's a riot. I mean, that guy is just trying to. He's living his best life out there. And I'll be honest, Joe Flacco. Now that Joe Flacco's the starter, I mean, he has weapons. He looks good when he plays. Josh Downs is a great weapon for him, so that could be a good one to do. But that's who I'm probably going for. I'm not gonna really go for a Derek Carr coming off of an injury. Daniel Jones looked like crap, getting sacked all over the place. Like Will Levis just throws interceptions. No point in even going after him. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it, Glenn.
Yeah, again, I think your Flacco one has some credit to it, and that's not who I'm going for. But so I'm not saying he's my number one person out of the deal, but I think Flacco's an interesting one because he's put up some points for him already this season.
Yeah,
So it's not like he's like some of the guys we were talking about before, where it's like going, if this was his first weekend for dealing with an injury and stuff like that, it'd be like going, okay, what's he going to do? But
right.
he's got, 4 weeks worth of scores, and 3 out of the 4 were really quite good,
Yep.
Numbers. And so I think there's something to be said there. And I think even you can look at Matthew Stafford's never the right guy, it seems like, ever. But on the other hand, he's been improving lately.
He's got his weapons back. And he's got
Right.
Puka and Cup back. So
And so now that you start seeing some of those things click upwards, you know,
yeah.
he's got like you said, he's got the weapons now. So
Yep.
what happens? And if he goes back to his relationship with Cup back in the day, I mean, at one point in time they were the best duo, or the Cooper Cup was the number one guy at
Yeah.
the position. So it's the same too.
Yep. I like that call actually a lot. And they're playing a Seattle defense that just gave up 31 points to Buffalo. So, it's right there for the taking. And I think, in my opinion, the Rams potentially have a better offensive weapons than Buffalo does, in the sense that Matt Stafford he's not Josh Allen. So I'm not going there. He's the only difference. But they got a Kyron Williams and they got all these receiving weapons of Cup and Puka, and you even have a couple other guys like Demarcus Robinson that are filling in nicely, other plate pieces. So a few good options out there, I think, this week if you're looking for a quarterback. All right, let's move on to the shit show at running back. Is there anybody? Is Do I just skip it? Do we just go?
I don't even understand why it's still in your PowerPoint. There hasn't been
Yeah,
anybody
I
on
know.
this wire for so long.
Oh
Trust me, there is nobody here week after
no.
week. It is, if we could have tumbleweed, we would have tumbleweeds go by.
That's my sound effect for a tumbleweed, if you could hear
Oh,
it.
thank you. I was like, I'm like, okay, I lost him. This is when it finally happened, but we got it on film.
We do. But even to the point of like, hey, pick up your backup running back. Well, guess what? I would honestly love to pick up the backup running back for James Conner, but I don't know who it is. I don't know if they're going to use Amari DiMercato or Trey Benson. I don't know which one. I'd probably take my pick of Trey Benson because Connor gets hurt every year, and at some point those guys might be relevant, so it might be good. I'd say pick up your backup running to Green Bay. However, Emmanuel Wilson would be that guy, but they are using this guy named Chris Brooks, you see at the bottom, and Marshawn Lloyd is coming off of IR probably this week, and therefore he may be the option there. Carson Steele somehow is still at the top of this list. That guy's garbage. He's not going to play anymore. Ezekiel Elliott's old as balls. Miles Sanders doesn't touch it. I mean, meow meow. Miles Sanders not the way to go. There is nothing here. I'd even tell you maybe Zamir White, who just got dropped by somebody else. Maybe just because of Vegas actually has a good schedule for running backs coming up. But Madison's the starter, and you're basically hoping for Alexander Madison to get hurt in order to play him.
I
So,
think if you need a
uh,
running back, if you need a running back truly, you've got to come up with a trade.
yeah,
And because there's talent on people's benches right now. Right
yes,
now, the
yep,
problem that we bump into with a 12-person league is our benches are pretty thick. And so
yep,
there's great players on people's benches. Before I did the trade with you, I offered a trade. I don't remember who I offered it to. And I'm just going, I'm just trying to trade for your bench.
yeah,
It's like, because it's a matter of going, these are the people you're not starting, but they're better by double than the people who are sitting on the wire this year. And
yeah,
so the idea that we don't have as many trades to me is either saying those of us who are sucking aren't trading, or everybody else is just keeping their cards going. Well, I might need them. I might need them. I might need them. So they can't. They're not taking any risk, and they don't seem to have to. So
yeah,
so when you put out the number one draft pick, and it takes 3 weeks before someone responds and goes, "Hey, how about this?" Or
yeah.
whatever. That's when you go. There's not a lot of trades happening, but that's truly the only way you're going to get a decent running back to come onto your team, I think. Um,
Yeah, and I think for your case specifically, you put it out there like right as that whole he's going to Germany to see a specialist kind of happened. And I think that got people scared off of like, oh, okay, he's literally flying across the world for this issue. What is happening like with this man? But to your point, you gotta take risk, and I think if you're at a certain level, I mean, you got to be willing to give certain teams. You got to look at yourself and say, hey, do I have to give up one of my best player or my top player so I can get two or three other players?
yep,
Or maybe I'm in the opposite mode where I feel like I have a good team and maybe I'm above 500. Can I give up two or three good players to try to upgrade and get a better player? And you got to kind of know how to piece that together, but don't be afraid to do it. I think we get too wrapped up in it, and we all have different views of what a value is, so don't get upset if someone doesn't feel like the value is, they don't agree with it, because I might have different reasons than you do. I mean, I've declined trades in other leagues where it was like showing me, well, here's where they sit right now, and I tell them, yeah, but this is what's going on. Like somebody offered me a certain thing, and I said, well, that's weird because when Josh Downs plays with Anthony Richardson, he fucking sucks. Like this past week, if he doesn't have that huge touchdown, which I know you can't take away that was a great play call, but that's one play. If he doesn't have that one play, Josh Downs had a terrible week. It was not
yep,
good. Anthony Richardson sucks. So it's stuff like that where I'm like, yeah, his numbers look good with Joe Flacco, but now that Joe Flacco's there, well, is Josh Downs a better player now? Like that kind of changes it up. So you got to kind of see future forward too on it, but don't be afraid to take that risk, like Glenn's saying. Is that a knock at the door? Tage, you there? Yeah, Tage is there. You, you come and say hi to Glenn?
Yeah.
hi
Yeah.
Tage.
Hi.
Did you just get? It looks like you're. Did you
Oh,
get just out of bath time, or?
no.
No, I'm just gonna take a shower.
Oh, are you
Yeah.
going to be trick or treating
Ugh.
tomorrow, or the next day?
I'm gonna go trick or treating the next day.
Oh, what's your costume this year?
Elsa.
Elsa. Wow, that's going to be beautiful.
Yeah. You see all the pinball machines behind Glenn? Have you ever played pinball?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay.
We're gonna have to fix that. You need to tell Daddy that you guys need to road trip.
Yes, we do. And we'll get to an arcade. I think arcades are real fun, right? You are
Absolutely.
warm, lady. Why are you wearing like a sweater? It is
Well,
80
especially by
degrees.
you.
I'm not wearing a
You have
sweater.
Antarium right by you.
Have what?
You have Antarium. It is inside one of the malls.
The
It,
Gurney Mills Mall?
not Gurney. No, what's it's is it Northwoods or I think
Huh.
Northwoods was by us. It's something like that. Um, and it's where they hold the world championship. So I mean,
Whoa.
they have all the newest and the best games there, and they have a sushi chef, so you can go for fine
What?
dining sushi while playing pinball and other great arcade games, all in a mall.
So I know that they truly did just open up like a more Japanese focused like arcade in Gurney Mills Mall, but it's like a full arcade, and I think you can get sushi there too, but that might not be it.
What's the mall in Schwamberg?
Woodfield.
Woodfield. Like I said, I was
Oh,
close.
okay. That's right by
I,
Grandma and Grandpa.
I knew I was close.
Water.
The arcade he's talking about is right by Grandma and Grandpa.
What?
You gotta get off of me. You are causing me to sweat like crazy, Tage. Oh my
Bye, Tage.
goodness. Yeah. Oh my Lord. Well, she's wearing this dress, but it's like a sweater. Like I don't even know how to explain it other than it's a friggin' sweater. That's that she has on. So it's kind of brutal. I'm trying to bring you back up here, and I don't know how to bring the video. There we go. No, I
Oh,
took my
that looks a
video
lot like
off.
you and Allison. Okay.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I did something that then caused it whenever I now. No, there we go. We'll do that. But yeah, she's wearing this dress, but it's like a sweater material, and it's just so hot. And I was like, Dave, and she's hot, but she won't do anything about it. She's like, no, she likes the dress, so she won't do anything about it. But man,
You
she's
know,
sweating, I'm
that's the
sweating.
problem. She picked up being a slave for fashion from her father,
Oh, of
and
course,
and
of course.
it's like going. You're not worried about the sun, but you're still wearing a baseball cap. So what the heck?
True,
It's the same
true.
thing.
That is my style. That's my article that I care about is the hat. That is true. Very true. All right, well, let's get away from this tumbleweed thing that we were
Okay.
talking about. The running, there's no point in talking about running backs. They're all bad. All bad. All right, now we'll go to wide receiver where there might be some gold in these hills here. I don't know. What do you think? Is there anybody here you like?
I think it's fool's gold. Uh, I think just because it's shiny doesn't mean it's there. I mean, what do? Do you take Gabe Davis because he's the least hurt of everybody hurt? Um, and
No,
Jackson,
but I would say Parker Washington becomes a very interesting player because I know that even from last year, Trevor Lawrence seems to look for him. So I actually do like Parker Washington and Jacksonville, specifically this week again. But Philly's defense has been better, so I don't know. But they don't have anybody else to throw it to. I don't know how else they're going
but
to
if
throw
they've only got one guy to throw it to at some point in time, everybody's going to go cover that guy,
it.
and
Yeah,
it's
very true.
Jacksonville. It's like going. So it's
Yep.
not like they're so great at the schemes and stuff like that, and doing such a great job with passing that they're going to beat out some people. That no, they need multiple wide receivers out on the field for
Yeah,
Trevor
that's
Lawrence
true.
to miss.
It
You
helps.
know,
It
and
helps that Brian Thomas Jr. out there to take the defense away from you for you to get these balls. That's a good point, Glenn.
so I once again, I those are the traps. You start reading the news, going, look, there's the only one guy, but sometimes if it's the only one guy, that's not to your advantage.
That's very true. Well, let me ask you this, because for Meow Meow, what about Jalen Coker at the bottom of this list for Carolina with Deontay Johnson gone. You still have Xavier Legette there. You got some other weapons there, but are we saying it's the same deal?
Who is Jack? There's still in that case there. In that case there, once again, you're picking the number one guy on like the last place team. It's like going, what's the point of that? I mean, you either got the Red Rocket with his broken thumb that he gets during a car wreck, you
In the
know.
parking lot of the stadium, by the way.
You don't need to say much more than that, you know.
That's the Panther King's domain, and people are getting hurt there already.
And it's a matter of going, I picked up Leggett at the beginning of the season because of the fact that I went, you know what? He's the fastest guy on the team. And I'm watching him not throw him to him at all during the game. Bryce doesn't even, I don't think he can see past the center because he's so short, but they've got Bryce so absolutely screwed up in the head that you
Yep.
just watch him. He's afraid to make a decision, and you can't in the NFL be that questioning of what you're going to do. It needs to be, and it's
Yep.
gone.
Yep.
And so I don't see how you pick up a Carolina player at any level at the moment right now, because if you're worth a darn, the owner knows it, and he's trading you away.
I
So
know, and on this list, I don't know. I'm with you. Like I thought there might be gold here, but we're talking me out of it. And some of these guys are like, well, it's a boom bust play. I mean, if you want Darius Slayton, he looked actually pretty good the other night, or last night. He looked pretty good. But I mean, that could be based on them covering neighbors so much. Who knows? That Slayton could be a guy. Roma Dunze, I don't know. I mean, he's a rookie. He could do better, but Chicago didn't look good in that game. I don't like their offensive coordinator. So there's a lot of stuff here where maybe it's questioning Elijah Moore for Cleveland. He got 12 targets, but in a full point per reception, I might be more on board with a guy that gets 12 targets. But otherwise, in our league, he's not getting touchdowns and he's not the greatest of players. So, yeah, it might be slim pickings here in the wide receiver streets this week as well.
yeah, I think that the wild thing about it is most of these guys' projections are pretty not that far off.
Right.
They're all single digit guys.
Yep.
All of them may have had a game like going back to Rome on Chicago. He had the
Yeah.
1 week,
Yep.
but
Yep.
everything else
Mm.
has been low single digits.
Agreed.
So it's better than the 0-0 we saw this week from one of our teams, but it's not much better than that.
No, and that's true. So take your choice in the lotto and see if you hit the jackpot, I guess, is where
Yeah,
where you're
yeah,
going with that. Well, we'll wrap up like we always do with tight end. Um, top of this list, Taysom Hill. I
yeah.
would take him, and
I'd take
don't
him.
I don't know if there's much else outside of that. I don't like when you see multiple tight ends from the same team, on here, things like that. But Taysom Hill, he was coming off of an injury. They're
Yeah,
playing Carolina, so they're playing your team. To me, he's going to get at least a score, if not more. So I think Taysom Hill is the play here at tight end for those that need one. And otherwise, again, probably pick your poison, right? Just like you were
yeah.
saying with the
No,
lotto.
I agree with you completely. I'm like going, if I was going to pick somebody off of there, I think Taysom Hill is an interesting tight end in that position. You're correct. I didn't even see right below him who's the next tight
Yeah.
end down, and so maybe now you're talking me out of it, but but it's just a matter of going, this is somebody that the matchup is beautiful. So if I'm only using them for this week, for sure,
Yep.
there's no defense
Yeah.
because there's
Exactly.
no defense.
And even Jawan Johnson underneath him, you got Rashid Shaheed that's hurt. Jawan Johnson is really probably their number two target as far as throwing the ball in that offense. You got Derek Carr coming back, so it might even look better for him. So to your point, like the top two players play on the same team. Uh, but Taysom Hill gonna get touches in the backfield, gonna get receptions as well. So you gotta just know that he the guy go for it. And everybody else, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Like just take a swing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but if nothing else, the first two guys are playing against Carolina.
There you
And,
go.
you might as well be playing out in the parking lot because even there we can't take a hit. So it's go ahead.
Yeah. I love it. Nice job. Well, that wraps up the waiver wire. So now we're in a trade central. And Denzel's just staring. He's talking to kind of what you were talking about, Glenn. You set him up perfectly to say, take the risk. Do it. Just go for it. What do you got to lose? Okay.
Yep.
That's what he's saying here is, hey, we need some trades. We need people taking a risk. I might even take one this week just to do it, just
You
to
know,
get it rolling.
I'll tell you, Greg, I think the biggest difference between the people right now, I really applauded you for being creative last week because the fact that you're thinking that you're going to be in the playoffs and you're
Yeah,
thinking then you want to win the playoffs, not just show up. And so you made a trade offer that was there to make your team better than an already good team is, but it was the right move, and I think that's that type of thinking. Either it's got to be us on the bottom who are offering up stuff, but the problem is we have less to offer. So it's got to be the guys who are sitting at the top, going, "What are they sitting on
yeah,
that I could use?" And you grabbing Christian McCaffrey off of my injured reserve list, it's like going, "You still up for a trade?" Yeah, I'm still up for a trade. If I wait till he comes back, I'm already out of it, but you're not,
yeah.
And I see him as somebody. Uh, Once he's back, my projection is he'll be a difference maker for you in a playoff game.
That's my hope because I think he's got to ramp back up, like Dr. Sam was saying. I think that has to happen. You can't just give him a full workload off the bat. He's been out for too long, so I know it's not going to help in the immediacy. But you're right. That's why I did it was to say because I see Bob's team and I look at that and I say I got to compete with that. Like I got
Right.
to be able if I'm going to win it all. And at the end of the day, we're not playing for second. Like I don't care about second place. You want to go for first place, and so you got to make some moves. And also to your point, like you draft your team, you think it's going to be great, it then can fall apart with injury and other things going on, or a player just not performing like you thought they would, and things happen to where then you have to adjust. And I think at times I don't adjust enough, or maybe I don't take that risk, and I don't trust that risk enough. Maybe even earlier on, just to say, hey, we're in week 3 or 4, you know what, this player should be better. They're usually better. They're not playing well right now, but I'm going to take a gamble that they're going to be better because they normally are. Things like that can happen. But
Yep. And there's somebody like off of Allison's team or anything like that, or any of us on the bottom. And I just used her because she was the bottom,
yeah, yeah,
but it's just a matter of going, who she have that when you're putting up a tag on your team name that says, injured or on and on and on, those are frequently first through third round draft choices that you would have loved to have had yourself.
yeah,
So now you have the opportunity, if you find out that your bench is relatively thick, if you're scoring a lot of points on your bench, but there's somebody out there who you would have taken early in one of those rounds, if that now injured team isn't grabbing, that's somebody who's probably willing to trade away that injury to try to get back on the winning side. But
yeah,
yet, that's your ability to stack it, not with somebody who you picked up in the seventh or eighth round, but somebody who they picked up in the first couple rounds.
yep,
But because they're injured, they need to get off of the downhill, and so I think uh, there's moves that can happen, but unfortunately, most of them are going to be led by the people in the top six because of the fact that they have the luxury, and
yep,
no one's going to be. Maybe they will be if they could see it, but it's better going. If I offered up an injured player, you saw how many weeks it took before someone sat there and said, hey, you know what? That does sound like a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't until they were closer to not being injured anymore.
True. And I think to your point as well, like I think about Allison, she has Isaiah Pacheco on her in IR.
Right,
Well, he's going to come back in a few weeks, 2, 3 weeks. And for me, when I made the move with you, it was okay, I feel fairly confident I can at least get into the playoffs because all I got to do is that. I don't like, for me, it's more of like, okay, can I get into the playoffs?
right,
And at that point, so that's what I'm playing for. And so all the stuff, I was like, you know what? I'm willing to take some losses here by not having any depth, by not having much going on to then do that, to then go. And so I think someone should go after Pacheco. Like you should offer Allison some stuff because for her at 1-7, she has to kind of win out. She has to win the next. I mean, so for her, she can't hold on to Pacheco
right.
anymore. And so if I'm someone else, I'm not doing it because I'll now have Gibbs, Kyron, and CMC. I feel confident in those three. That would be my two running back and my flex as long as they're healthy. But that would be how I'd run it.
I
So I
agree.
don't want to go after Pacheco, but somebody else who might say, "Hey, I could use a third good running back or whatever." I'd be offering her, two or three good players or two like to get a Pacheco, two good players to get a Pacheco or something like that because to your point, like, hey, maybe I can wait, maybe I can suffer a loss or two till he comes back, and then I feel better and I can, figure this out.
And you got to also look at going, and so yes, you're 100% correct. But it's also, you got to pay attention to the fact that if Allison is playing better, because you gave her a couple better players, who is she now playing against?
Sure,
Is she playing
I like
against
that.
somebody who you're potentially competing for in the playoffs?
Yeah,
So you can't always look at it from going, how's it affect me, me, me? It's got to also be, it affects me, but in a sneaky way. It's a matter of going, because if I take, well, kind of like what you and I were doing in our trade, if I
yeah,
took down Sam,
yep,
that helped you in a way that you
yep,
couldn't help yourself at that moment.
right.
And
Oh, I'll agree. Yeah, I was hoping you would beat Sam. That would be helpful.
correct. And so again, that's where you got to not only look at your schedule, but you got to look at like a person's like Allison's schedule and go, okay, Allison, who are you playing that I would love for you to have these couple extra players here because now you may beat one of them. And
Yeah,
as you beat one of them, then I'm moving up. Even if I potentially, like you said, take a loss here or there, maybe I pick up a win on a team that I care more about.
yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Because yeah, when we made our move, I looked at it as like, man, if I can get you a better wide receiver than a Michael Wilson, you have a good shot at this to really take him down at that point, and that gets me, like you said, an extra. His loss helps me in the end
Correct.
for that, especially knowing that I'm going to face him the following week, and I'm not so confident that I might beat him. So I'm getting like I'm trying to take two shots here to like take down a number one guy, that's
Correct.
doing well. So
Correct. And so I think there's a lot to this trade stuff. And this is the hardest thing to get established in any of the fantasy football leagues I've ever been in, where trades are so tentative. But right now, I hate this 12 person league, but I love it because of the fact that it's no longer easy.
yeah,
10 person is relatively easy. There's always somebody who you can grab. You can play off of
yep,
it. You can sit there and go, I don't even keep that extra position there because I'll pick up somebody off the wire, off the
yep,
wire before the game. In 12 person, that's not the case,
no,
so it really is going to turn us all into great traders, or it's always going to be a battle of the haves and have nots.
true. So trade. That's what we're telling you. Get to trade and get to looking. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Devontae watch. We don't have Godwin watch anymore at Devontae watch. He kind of did a little bit below his normal average. He went down a tenth of a point this week. I'm setting my bar at 13. If he gets 13, if he averages 13 or more, I am not paying Zach his $10. But if he does not hit 13 or more on average, I owe Zach. I'm gonna pay him the $10 because Godwin was doing well. He would have so just tough loss for him on that. But if Javante hits that 13 mark, I'm feeling fine. But if he doesn't, you all know that I gotta owe that man his money. So we'll keep an eye on Javante. Come on, Javante, you played the fucking Panthers. And you couldn't do it. But anyways, I still love you. I just don't love you as much. Okay. Comment of the week. I liked Bob's last night when Allison finally won and he did the callback for one of us. That was good. I just loved it because it was a good callback for when I lost and then it was you're one of us. So I
Yep.
thought it was a great callback on Bob's side. Any comment that you like? There weren't that many this week. It wasn't as chatterboxy this
I
week.
don't know that you guys are the chattiest people I've ever met in my life. So it's a matter of going. So, I mean, I probably right now, if I pulled it up, I'm at least 20 comments behind right now. I
Sure.
was like
Yeah,
scrolling through going, when does this end? As I
I
read
know.
through all of them. So no, I'm just going to go with that was my favorite also.
Bob's always got a good timely gif out there. So good for you, Bob. We appreciate it. All right, now we've gone through week 8, and this is where we sit after week 8. So I'll go to the top here where you see the East versus the West. In the East, I'm at the top at 7-1, but Louis right behind at 5-3. Then you have Zach who's coming up at 4-4. And then Kyle and you are at 3-5 right underneath that. And then Allison got her first W, so her playoff chances doubled. She was at 2%. She's at 4% now. So gaining speed there. And in the West, you still have Sam at the top at 6-2. But I'm telling you, Bob is coming for you. Beat the Swifties at 5-3, and he is scoring a bunch of points. So he's doing well. Casey right there at 5-3 also. EJ 4-4, Tyler at 3-5, and Andy at the bottom with a bunch of jagoffs at 2-6. So a little tighter division there, whereas we have a little bit more parity in ours, but everybody's got a chance. Everybody's got a chance still. And then here's just some stats. So Bob hit over the 1,000 point mark. He's the only team over the 1,000 point mark so far this year. Is Bob O. So that happened there. I always like to check out the number of moves. So I jumped this week to 17, but partly because of our trade, and it was like a two-parter, so that makes us have two moves each on that. And then I was indecisive in some running backs who I wanted on my team this week from the free agency. So I jumped up a lot this week. But I noticed Casey is down there. Tyler only got 4, Casey at 3, and Sam, Dr. Sam, he's too busy doing the injury reports. He doesn't have any time to make moves. So he's there only at 6. Those are the only single digit folks there. But you're pretty low yourself, Glenn. You're only at 10, you know? How do you, when you think about moves that you're making, and shoot, really, you'd be in single digits if it wasn't that we did the trade in a two-parter.
Yep.
So you'd still be in single digits. Like, how do you go about analyzing? Because I feel like I've never been great. I feel like I over move rather than being more analytical about what I'm doing.
Again, this one's interesting for me because of being a 12-person team, like we just went through with, like you do every week with going who's on the waiver. The waivers are the easy ones, and
Sure.
so these are people grabbing people off of the waiver, and just because it's not all trades,
Right.
they're just moves, and so you grab somebody, you drop somebody, that more than likely means that you had flexibility. That means you had more depth in your team, more than likely. Like in my case here, I've had a series of injuries. I've had on and on and on. So I didn't have the luxury of grabbing somebody who might be good 3 weeks from now. It's
Yeah.
like you're like going, God, you hate to lose this one here because he should be great, which is why I picked him up in the first place. And do I
Yep.
ride it out while this guy's injured? So I don't know. I again, I had one trade offered that I refused. It was okay.
Sure.
The trades being offered were no better than what I had. In fact, in my opinion, maybe a little bit worse, on their potential upside. So it
Sure.
was like going, okay, pass. So that doesn't go on the sheet, but that doesn't mean it wasn't there. Then I offered a trade out and never heard anything back. So that one just timed out over time, you
Yep.
know. And so I learned from the next two people who tried to trade with me that maybe I need to reach out to the person to say, hey, did you notice? Because I
Yep.
don't know if they even noticed
Yep.
that the trade was sitting there. But if all the trades would have gone through, I would have been one of the most tradey person in the league, which I think is more reflective of what my season feels like here, which is it needs to change in
Sure.
order for me to do better. It just, two out of three of them just didn't pan out.
Yep. And you got to make the moves to, do it, right? Where if you're not first, you're last, as they
If
say.
you're
So
not
you
in the
got to,
playoffs, you can't win. So if nothing else, here in the beginning, you got to be playing to get into the playoffs, and anything
yep.
below the playoffs doesn't give you a chance.
And speaking of that, I mean, we only have, shoot, 6 weeks left. We're through eight, so we're over halfway through the year. And we're coming up on week nine. So in week nine, like I said, 6 more weeks. That's what we got. And here's the first matchup. I brought your matchup up with Bob here.
Well,
This
thanks.
is the highest projected total I think I've ever seen on here at 135. And I think Bob's even strong. He's even healthier. I'm gonna read this off to you, Glenn, because you're seeing the starting squad. He also on his bench has DK Metcalf, the Bears defense, Mark Andrews, Jamison Williams, and others. The list can go on. I mean, he's even got backups that are projected for high point totals. DK is going to be hurt, but just add that to the list, man. And I just feel like he's got a lot going for him right now. How are you going to take him down besides a swift kick to the nuts?
According to these projections, it's going to all be done on the back of my tight end.
Yep, your tight end has the check mark. That is true. And
My
unfortunately, it's not even true because who else are the Jacksonville Jaguars going to throw to besides Evan Ingram?
so no, this is one of those weeks where I just need Jalen to live up to his last name, um, and uh, and it's going to take something like that. You know,
Yeah.
if we don't have a King Ralph thing where they're all getting a group photograph and electrocute each other, um, this is going to be a tough game to win. So this is not mine to win. It's his to lose, and from my perspective. So
What?
if Zach makes some errors, I have a chance, but it's going to be something's going to happen. If there's not a key injury somewhere, I'm in a lot of trouble.
I don't know, man, but here's what I will say, Glenn. I like almost all of your matchups, like for your players. I'm not kidding. And it's funny that they have the advantage for Njoku because that's probably the least favorable besides Chicago. I think Chicago's always a tough opponent to play against for Marvin Harrison, but he's a great talent. But truly, I like Caleb going against Arizona. I like Pollard against New England. I like Chase Brown against Las Vegas. I love Chris Olave against Carolina. Jaden Reed against Detroit, where they're going to have to throw. I mean, I like a lot of your matchups. So I don't think it's so far out of the realm. And I look at it like if it can swing a little bit both ways. Like I do see it that way of like you've got good matchups. I think you can outperform your projection. Whereas on his side, it might be a little tougher to do that. And if it swings both ways, then maybe you meet in the middle and it's a matchup. But yeah, this is a wide point margin. I mean, this is they're putting the ass whooping already on you. And that's what they're labeling. This is a 31 point projected ass whooping is what they're saying.
And
So
the only hope I have is my very first victory was against a person who I was scheduled to get my ass whooped.
yep. And that's how it goes in this league. So I think, that it could happen for you. Bob's been running too hot, too hot.
There
So
you
maybe
go.
it's got to cool off a little bit here. We'll see. All right, next up we have Jerry Jones Hate Club. They never showed Jerry Jones's face on here. I don't know why it just won't do it, but it doesn't. So we have Kyle versus Tyler, both at 3 and 5. But as you can see, the projections are off because both their tight ends are not going to play this week. Those are the teams that are out, but also because Stephon Diggs is now on IR for the season. He's out. Might as well just drop him to the waivers because you can't use him. So Tyler's got 2 zeros in his lineup right now, whereas Kyle has one. Um, and I think actually Kyle also has Christian Kirk on his team, who, as you heard, is out for the season as well. Who would be maybe the guy who could replace Diggs, but he can't even replace Diggs because he's also hurt for the year. So kind of rough. Anything that you're seeing that could be the differentiator or help Tyler get this W as the underdog?
See, I think it's going to be closer than this projection shows. Aaron Rodgers and CJ Stroud, they're almost a wash. You know,
Yep,
they're they can screw each other over or be great. You know, and
yep.
so
That'll be an interesting matchup.
what Aaron Rodgers shows up and what CJ Stroud shows up, you know, and you just keep you look at some of those things, and again, you're looking at a starting tight end that he's used to having that's not in the game right now. So how does that play out? So I don't know. I project this one to be closer than the spread. So we'll go on the record right now going it's an 18-point spread. It'll be closer than 18 points.
Yeah, that Texans versus Jets game will be a deciding factor in this game, right? So
Yep.
we got that'll basically be what happens. So both teams have a close eye on that game as they have multiple players going in that game. So
Yep.
good luck to both teams. All right. Next up, we have Louis versus EJ. This is actually a big time matchup and the highest combined point total between two teams. Um, Obviously, like to me, it comes down to wide receivers on both sides. I think they're both playing that three running back lineup where their flex is a running back. So you've got CD, Lamb, and Puka Nakua going against Amon Ross, St. Brown, and AJ Brown. Uh, Four great wide receivers right there going against each other. So to me, that's your differentiator to see who takes it home will be between those wide receivers and what they do this week. Any other differentiator that you see?
No, I've got this one in my brain is, my immediate reaction is it's Louis all the way. And I apologize to EJ for saying that. But the only difference is going with Lamar going to Denver. That defense has just been playing
Yep.
so well that's like the wild card in my brain is just
Yep.
going, can Lamar really do what Lamar can do. And I think the whatever direction Lamar goes will be it will be the direction that this game goes. If he can come up with a way of putting up those types of points in front of Denver, then this is his game. So I think by
Yep.
the time we're done watching the Baltimore Denver game, you'll have a pretty good projection as to how this one will play out. So
Yeah.
that's where my brains are.
I like that. And if Lamar does that this week against Denver defense, I mean, I put him in the MVP discussion at the top again because, I mean, he's played great. If you watch him play, I just love watching him play too. He's a great player. And, while he can run the ball, it's not even what he's trying to do. He's not even trying to run the ball. He's moving around to throw it. And I just like watching him. But that will be a really interesting matchup to see. Good call on that. All right. Next up is me versus Andy. So first in the East versus worst in the West right now, but I put up here throw to me, Love, because this was not playing, but if he's going to play Jordan Love, which he might, if Love is going to play, because that Detroit matchup usually means you got to throw. Well, I got Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs on the side. I don't really have anybody else that could to play in the wide receiver spot right now. I mean, Rashad Bateman is scheduled to get 3.6 points, so I don't quite know what to do in that. I got Brian Thomas Jr. who's out. Nico Collins is out. Deontay Johnson right now is questionable. He was out last time. I don't really have much else to throw out there at this point. I might be looking for some of those crummy guys on the waiver wire. Who knows? But that's where we're sitting. What do you think is going on in this matchup? I mean, we're projected close.
I think you're projected close because it's just a toss up one. You
Yep.
know, I mean, this is a toss up. there's so many different variables into this one here that I'm just like I don't have a I don't have a good feel for wherever this is going to go, you
Yeah.
know. So I mean, it like Zay Flowers, which Zay Flowers is showing up that week, you know.
Yep.
So in that flex position, he's scheduled to win it, but will he win? Yeah, I don't know. You know, it's like, and so I just look at this, and you know, your first couple players are playing against some decent defenses, you know. So it's like going,
Yeah.
you've got the harder opponents all the way through, and that may be the biggest difference here. Um,
Yeah.
so I think it's you know I, you've got some tough games to play. And playing anybody against anybody in the NFC right now is a tough team to go from. And when you finally get a break by not playing against somebody in the NFC, then you've got oh I thought you had somebody playing oh you have someone playing against, and then you have your flex positions playing against Denver. You
Yep.
know, so it's like going. So you get Chicago, Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, and Denver. Those are not pretty.
Nope. I know it'll be tough for that. And I think you've kind of laid it out correctly. This will be a close one to watch, but this is also what when I made trades, I knew this was going to happen, and I was going to have some rough going here in the interim. So it bees
Right.
what it bees, but we'll see how that lands. All right, next up, will Allison get on a roll? So will she take another victory and get two in a row? She needs it, so she's got to do something. But we'll see how that ends up. And on Casey's side. Right now, he has his projected is 97, but he's got two players that are on bye, so he's got to replace those anyways. So therefore, his projection's a little bit higher. But at the end of the day, we're not here for projections. We're here for what actually happens in the games. So therefore, it could be anyone's game at that point.
I didn't pull up who is on his bench, so that to me is the big one. Who's he putting in a
So
who's
I
he
think
got to cover his
McLaurin will go in. So I know McLaurin will probably be so let's just say he moves Rico Dowdle into that running back spot that's vacant due to bye. He'll put McLaurin in at flex is what I see because he traded for him and it matches up with Jaden Daniels. So that makes sense there. Defense, I think he has to pick up another defense off of the waivers or something like that. But
yeah.
that's what he'll put for the flex spot. On her end, I don't know what she does if ETN doesn't play because I think that's an important part too. He hasn't played in a few weeks. She needs him to play for this matchup. And if he doesn't, I'm not quite sure what she does because she's already going to be missing Pickens, she's missing Purdy, and she's missing Pearsall in this game. So she has already got a lot of players on bye and not many options outside of that. So tough call on her end. This might be what she has to roll with.
Yeah, yeah. That this is
Maybe a new defense. I think she'll pick a new defense. I'll say that. They got her negative 1 point last week, and they're going against Buffalo this week. So I think she'll pick a new defense.
right. Yeah, this one here with Casey not having a couple people able to come on in, so and then being able to fill in those spots. I
Yeah, it's
think
tough to say.
it's going to be a tough one for Allison.
Yep, agreed. All right. Then we have two top teams. We really do. So we have Sam, who's first in the West, going up against Zach, who's third in the East. Zach is kind of on the come up and has been doing better, whereas Sam, as you had mentioned, is kind of on the downswing right now. So we'll see how those kind of level out here. And Sam obviously has to get a different defense because the 49ers are on bye. So we'll have to find out a new defense there. Anything that you see here that you think could be the differentiator?
Sam has been clicking up every week. He had his 50-point game, then he had his 70-point game, then he had
True.
so I think the time for whooping on Sam, he survived through my run at him. So I think he's upticking right now. So this is going to be a good game.
Yeah.
I don't trust Josh Allen. So I mean, he's definitely not somebody who I'm counting on the fact that I am beating my projection or even catching my projection. So Waddle, I come in on the same position. So there's a lot of people on Zach's team where it depends on, do these guys play like they're capable of, or do they not? And
Yeah.
if they don't, then I think Sam's team, you've got Kamara, that you've got people there who can do some points, and so A Chain makes me nervous. Anytime I see him there, he can earn so many darn points from just one position in his flex spot.
Yep.
So, I think this is an interesting one. I wish Zach plenty of luck as the underdog going into it, or not. He's not the underdog by the score, but he is by the record. Um,
And he
uh,
will be by projection once the defense goes in there, because no matter what, they're close right now. So once Sam puts a defense, he'll be an underdog based on projection as well.
right.
But
And so I
that
wish him
Buffalo
the best.
Miami
It just
game,
depends on who shows up.
but that Buffalo Miami game, that's what it hinges on. You have Josh Allen and James Cook in there, on the Buffalo side for Zach,
Yep.
and then for
Tyree.
Sam, you have Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane on that end too. So that Buffalo Miami matchup, to me, is what's really going to separate it out as to who takes it, this coming week. So we'll see how that ends up going. And I know Zach also has, because you were mentioning Jalen Waddle, and I think he's kind of put him in now. I think when I took this, he had different players rolling. I don't know why it's like that, um, but yeah, he has Waddle in there too. So Josh Allen, James Cook, and then you have Jalen Waddle on Zach's side, and then you have, like I said, Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane on Sam's side. So that game will be an important game for both of those teams to look out for and watch to see if which players actually put up the points in that one, and that'll probably be the deciding factor. Will be
Yep.
that matchup itself.
Yep. I agree.
Well, we've done it, Glenn. We
Now,
got
now.
through it. Like, peace. I am done with this. But yes, we've actually gotten it done. So thank you, Glenn. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, but thank you for hopping on with me after a wonderful night with your lovely wife at the restaurant and dollar beer night. You lucky effer. So hope you enjoyed it. You had some good feedback. I appreciate you had really good info for us and things that I don't think about at times. So I appreciate that as well, because that can help me think about things maybe a little bit differently in the future when I'm doing some fantasy football. So I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. It's fun. This is why when you guys were talking about it at Thanksgiving and stuff like that, I kept going, this really seems like an interesting league to be in, and it's so interesting. It's like I said, I'm a playoff running team in my fantasy football league. I've got first place almost completely locked up now for my NASCAR league, and this is the one that is just kicking my ass. And it's just like going, I'm like, why the fuck can't I do something with this league? Um, and so it's been interesting to dive into it, and this type of exposure to how things, what people are dealing with, is completely different. So I greatly appreciate it more than you know.
Well, I love having you, Glenn. We miss you, man. Honestly, miss being near you. So we'll have to make our way out there to North Carolina. And what I'll say, if Allison takes the L this year and is the ultimate loser, maybe we'll fly out to come get that shirt from you.
That'd be fantastic, because I'll tell you what's happening on our lives, just so you know.
Yeah.
We've been telling everybody we're not coming back until Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, okay.
But the overall idea is to be back in time for Memorial Day.
We'd
And
love
the
that.
and the logic behind that is that you guys have now taken over the long-standing tradition. And so we look at it going, Sandy's mama's birthday is within a month of that kind of weekend. Heritage Lake starts doing a breakfast on the lake thing, which is not as big as our 4th of July event by any manner, shape, or format, but it's a lot of people that we would know who are doing stuff right around that same time because it's the beginning of the kickoff of the boating season in Central Illinois. And then you guys have got your party, and I'm like going, boy, I can hit Sandy's family, I can hit my family, and I can hit our old family that
Yeah.
is Heritage Lake by making that period of time around there that key time to travel. So I do know that that is 100% in our travel plans. And as long
Cool.
as Sandy's mama is alive, I see that at bare minimum as to our standard thing, which is we're not going to show up at Thanksgiving. That's crazy. We're not going to show up around Christmas time. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But showing on up around Memorial Day and stuff like that, it's travel-y, but it's around the weekend, and we have the flexibility of leaving a period of time before that and a period of time afterwards to make it not crazy.
Very cool. We would love to have you, man. I hope that that is what you're doing. That works perfectly. So
Yeah,
we
that has
appreciate it.
been that is in completely in agreement, and we
Okay.
have already marked it down as to what the plans are. So just so you know, we don't plan on cutting off all of our connections. We just have to. The devastating one was missing Sam's wedding. It
Yeah.
it was our move was way tougher than we expected it to be because we walked into what we thought was going to be done, and instead I found myself general contracting the job that I thought I had somebody hired for
Yeah.
7 months to get done.
Uh,
It was just, I mean, we were literally camping in our other house that was for sale. So we just took the topper off of our mattress and we would roll that out at night, sleep there because we had no functioning toilets in this house.
oh my gosh,
And
man.
so it was just like going, it was just nonsense of the stuff that was going on at that moment. And it was like going, that was a total desire to be there. And it was like, I'm just like going, there's just no way.
Yeah.
It's like, going, you mean, no, no, this is not like it's 2 years from now and everything's calmed down. And it's like,
Sure.
okay, we're going to get married in Michigan. Good. Then we will blow off going to Memorial Day. We'll show
Yeah.
up to go to the wedding and we'll do a big thing around there. This was, hey, you just got there. You don't have a place to store your stuff, but why don't you go on vacation? No, no, I'm not gonna do that. But
Yeah.
these other things are on the schedule, and
Cool.
everything now feels way more back to normal.
Well,
Yeah,
all the FFFL is invited. So that means if Glenn's coming, y'all need to come too, you know? So we'll make it a big event.
I
So,
I agree. I think we'll have a hoot.
all
All
right,
right.
sounds good.
Thank you for everything you do. It's great fun.
Hey, appreciate you, Glenn. Much love to you. Much love to all of you out there, and good luck this week in week 9. Right?
Absolutely.
Get
Tell
them.
Allison we love her and miss her.
We'll do. All right.
Bye.
Bye, Glenn.